You walk in and you know within 30 seconds. Something tightens. Not panic, not exactly, just a kind of internal bracing, like your whole nervous system quietly gripped the armrests. The noise hits first, then the smell, then the sheer mass of bodies moving in directions that make no collective sense. And somewhere underneath all of that is a voice that is very calmly saying, "This was a mistake. You said you'd try. You told yourself it would be fine." Maybe someone talked you into it. A concert, a market, a party in a house that has approximately 400% more people in it than any house should. And now you're here, calculating the fastest route to the exit, while also trying to look like someone who is having a normal time. The drink helps a little. The bathroom break helps more. Those 2 minutes alone in a tiled room that smells like hand soap, feeling genuinely restorative in a way you'd never admit to anyone. And the whole time, the people around you seem fine, more than fine. Some of them seem energized, animated, lit up by the exact thing that is quietly draining you like a phone left on battery saver mode since noon. You've wondered about this, whether something is wired wrong, whether you're missing the gene that makes crowds feel exciting instead of exhausting, whether you'll spend your whole life doing the mental math of how long you have to stay before leaving becomes socially acceptable. You're not missing anything. You're running a different program. And the psychology behind why some people experience crowds as genuinely aversive is specific, well-documented, and a lot more interesting than "you're just introverted." If you've ever faked a headache to leave somewhere early, this one is for you. Subscribe if you're new here. We talk about the psychology behind the things people feel but rarely explain properly. Leave a comment too. Tell me your particular crowd survival strategy. I read every single one. Because what's actually happening in your brain and body inside a crowded space goes deeper than preference. It goes all the way down to how your nervous system was built and what it was built for. This isn't about being antisocial. It's about being wired for something crowds can't give you. Psychologists call it sensory processing sensitivity, a trait that shows up in roughly 15 to 20% of the population across every culture researchers have studied. It simply means your nervous system takes in more information per second than average and processes it more completely. Sounds, lights, smells, the emotional temperature of the people around you, social cues, spatial pressure. All of it arrives at full volume, all at once, without a natural filter. A crowded room isn't just loud to you, it's loud in about 14 different ways simultaneously. And your brain, being thorough, tries to process all 14. Research from Stony Brook University, led by psychologist Dr. Elaine Aron, found that highly sensitive people show significantly more activity in the insula, the part of the brain responsible for body awareness and processing the immediate environment when exposed to stimulating conditions. More activity means more processing. More processing means more drain. You're not being dramatic when you say crowds exhaust you. Your brain is doing measurably more work than the person standing next to you who seems completely unbothered. That's not weakness. That's a higher processing load running on the same hardware. Now go back further, to something older than psychology research, older than cities, older than crowds as we currently understand them. For the vast majority of human history, dense groups of strangers were not a normal feature of daily life. You lived among people you knew, in numbers small enough that every face was legible and every intention was readable. A sudden mass of unknown bodies was almost always meaningful in the old evolutionary sense, and rarely in a good way. Some nervous systems never fully updated that calculation. Yours might be one of them, running ancient threat assessment software in a world that technically doesn't require it anymore, but also never fully explained that to your amygdala. Your discomfort in crowds isn't irrational, it's pre-rational, which is a different thing entirely. Here's the uncomfortable truth, and I want to say it plainly because it doesn't get said enough. You have probably spent years low-grade apologizing for this, saying yes to things you didn't want to attend, staying longer than you wanted to stay, performing enjoyment with enough conviction that nobody asks questions. And the energy that performance costs you, the active work of seeming fine while your nervous system files a formal complaint, is real energy that real people who actually like crowds don't have to spend. You've been running a tax that other people don't pay, every time, for years. Psychologists call the behavioral pattern you've likely developed strategic withdrawal, the learned ability to manage overstimulating environments through careful planning, exit awareness, and social calibration. You probably arrive knowing where the doors are. You likely position yourself near the edges of rooms. You've developed a precise internal clock for exactly how long you can sustain a crowded environment before the return on investment drops below zero. That's not antisocial behavior. That's sophisticated self-regulation that took years to develop without anyone teaching you how. Here's what nobody tells you about people who hate crowds. Your spatial and social awareness inside those environments is often extraordinary. Because you're processing everything, you notice the things other people miss. You catch the shift in group energy before it becomes visible. You read faces across a room with accuracy that surprises people when you mention it later. You feel the moment a conversation is about to turn before it turns. That's not anxiety. That's data. Real, accurate, useful data that your finely tuned system is collecting whether you asked it to or not. Psychologists call this environmental sensitivity, and studies show it correlates strongly with higher empathy scores, more accurate social prediction, and what researchers describe as depth of processing, the tendency to think about experiences longer and extract more meaning from them than average. You don't just survive the party, you remember it with a detail and texture that the person who loved every minute of it probably doesn't. You pay more. You also take more home. The gift in all of this is specific, and I don't want to be vague about it. You have a relationship with your own interior world that crowd lovers often spend decades trying to find. You know what it feels like to be genuinely restored by quiet, not bored by it, not anxious in it, actually rebuilt by it, the way a good night of sleep rebuilds a tired body. Silence for you is not an absence, it's a substance. Most people treat quiet as something to fill. You know it as something to enter. That's rare. Genuinely, measurably rare. And in a world that is getting louder by the year, the people who can tolerate their own company without flinching are the ones who tend to know themselves best. So, you're allowed to leave early. You're allowed to skip the thing entirely. You're allowed to feel the relief of a canceled plan like a small gift dropped into your afternoon, without needing to explain it or justify it or dress it up as something more socially acceptable than what it actually is. You're not antisocial. You're not broken. You're not someone who just needs to push through it more often until it stops feeling like pushing. You're someone whose nervous system was built for depth over volume, for meaning over noise, for the kind of connection that happens in a room with two people and enough time to actually say something true. Crowds aren't your natural habitat. That's not a limitation. That's just information about where you do your best living. And the places where you do your best living are worth protecting. Tell me, what's your personal crowd threshold? What's the moment you always know you're done? Drop it in the comments. And if this felt accurate in a way that was almost uncomfortable, subscribe. Next time, we're going into the psychology of people who need a lot of alone time to feel like themselves again, and why that need is not loneliness. It's something much quieter and more specific than that.